And now, welcome to Y 2025. This is track Delphius. We're talking about Offworld Voyage. Basically, if you do build something for Mars, and we basically turning this Earth into another Mars, so why can't we join that together? I present you Scott and Elizabeth.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, and thanks to Philid for being our fantastic herald right now. This is Elizabeth Jane Cole.
Hello, everyone.
And
Thank you so much for coming.
And I'm Scott Beibin. Hi, we're the co-founders of Offworld Voyage, and our talk is designing a plant-based Mars base, or can training for Mars exploration also solve for adaptation to climate biodevastation on Earth? Okay, so one of my favorite inventors and minds of all time is Buckminster Fuller, and he says you never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, you build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. Hello, I'm Scott Beibin. I do a bunch of different stuff. I'm an inventor, self-taught engineer, and hacker. I do stuff at the intersection of science and art. I'm an activist focusing on the environment, social stuff, creativity, and other kinds of weird things. I have a lifelong interest in space exploration. When I was a kid, I went to space camp and always dreamt of being an aerospace engineer, but I wound up taking a very strange, circuitous route, which brought me back to the space world. I'm a huge fan of autonomous projects and collectivist projects. I've been involved with a lot of cooperatives and DAOs and all other kinds of experiments in governance. I live off-grid in the city of Philadelphia in the United States. I'm off electric and water grid, and it is sometimes pretty difficult, but it's worth it. I generate all of my electricity with 800 watts of solar panels and 10,000 watt hours of batteries. And I have a whole bunch of projects that I could tell you about at some other point, but if you wanted to check them out, it's not only Offworld Voyage, but Ancient Scan, Mandelbot Ecotech, Groucho Fractal Telepathique, the Anahata Metaverse Mystery School, and Evil Twin Booking Agency, which is what I do with Liz. And yeah, here's the list of space exploration things. I'm an analog astronaut and I'm an alumnus of the Mars Desert Research Station in Utah in the United States, and as mentioned, I'm one of the founders of Offworld Voyage. I created an audio process prototype called Music on Mars with my friend John Knott. We made this to simulate the acoustic properties of Mars based upon data by the Mars Perseverance rover, and I'll show you a little bit about that later. And I'm also one of the core committee members of the Journal for Space Analog Research, which is initiated by the Mars Society.
And I'm Elizabeth Jane Cole, also an activist, currently a pilot in training. Alum of the Mars Desert Research Station. I was the crew journalist for Mission 286, and I documented our crew's efforts to produce sustainable vegan food for Mars habitats and also for supporting people on Earth, along with a lot of other exciting projects that our crew did, which Scott will get more into later in the talk. I'm also a core committee member of the Journal of Space Analog Research, which is a peer-reviewed academic journal publishing research that comes out of different space analog facilities.
Okay. Let me adjust your mic there. Okay.
Thank you.
There we go. Okay. So can you tell us a little bit about the overview effect, Liz?
The overview effect, it's the name given to this shift in awareness that astronauts report experiencing when they view the Earth from above. The term, the overview effect, was coined by Frank White, a writer, and it describes this shift in perception astronauts report of how they see themselves in relation to the Earth, the biosphere, and how they see humans in relation to the environment, as well as human constructs like nation states. And many astronauts have said that if you weren't an environmentalist before going to space, you will be one by the time you return to Earth, based on these experiences. In fact, there was a study done on this phenomenon. It did in-depth interviews with 15 different astronauts who had been to space many times, analyzing how their experience of the overview effect changed their long-term environmental behaviors, attitudes, in relation to their consumption patterns and level of engagement with environmental activist movements.
Okay, so the term that we all need to know in this talk is space analog research. So what is an analog astronaut? Well, here we are doing what some people might call Mars LARPing. But with a little bit of more rigor. So what we do is, aside from dressing up in spacesuits and exploring other worlds on this world, we go out and conduct science. We do rigorous experiments in locations that geologically resemble Mars in various degrees. There are analog facilities all over the world that address different types of similarities to Mars. Analog as in analogous in this particular case. And there's Liz with Roger Gilbertson during the Mars Desert Research Station Crew 286 mission. Okay. So Mars is one of the most hostile environments that humans might, humans might imagine. Sometimes people will say, oh, these billionaires want to go fly to Mars and vacation there and whatnot. However, there are a few problems with this. One is that it is incredibly deadly. Just getting there, you have cosmic radiation that is bombarding the ship. You have the effects of microgravity and absence of really microgravity on the body as we travel through space. And then once we actually get to Mars, the gravitational field is different than on Earth. Also, you have an atmosphere that is 174 times less dense than on Earth, but not only 174 times less dense. It is also 97% it also has 97% composition of carbon dioxide. So if you breathe it, you will die. Easily. Let's see. Also, the soil on Mars is contaminated with perchlorates, and there are probably all other kinds of nasty things there. So even when humans go to Mars, we're going to have a bit of a hard time over there. So that's one of the reasons why we do these simulation training missions. It's a way to practice for our eventual explorations. So one of the best ways to do something is to start doing it. Practice, practice, practice. So even if it's decades away before humans get to Mars, it's good to start now. Okay. So this is a growing field of training for future space exploration. There are many habitats all over the world with varying degrees of fidelity, meaning accuracy. Some of these places are pressurized. Some of these places are just in locations that are similar to Mars or other places we want to explore. And also, there are different types of activities. There are the astronaut activities, but then also mission control and support activities. Okay, and you go, Liz.
Sure. So some examples of currently active space analog research facilities are SAM, which is the space analog for the Moon and Mars, and that is a research facility that is at Biosphere 2 at the University of Arizona in the United States. And SAM is a very high fidelity facility. It is hermetically sealed, and it is a pressurized research facility as well. So it has a fully functioning airlock. It has carbon dioxide, oxygen, and relative humidity, temperature, and barometric pressure monitoring, and regulated for the duration of research missions, and computer-controlled pressure release valves and flow control. So it's pretty much as close as you can get to living on the surface of Mars without reducing gravity or dropping the temperature to negative 63 degrees Celsius. Although actually the SAM also does have a low gravity simulator, which is a lot of fun to jump around in. I've had the opportunity to play with it. So some of the research SAM does involves using hydroponically grown plants to sequester the carbon dioxide produced by the crew as they breathe. And this is very important because all of the carbon dioxide exhaled by crew members in a sealed environment will quickly, turn your habitat into a deadly dystopia. And so using in a lot of sealed facilities, including on the ISS, carbon dioxide is scrubbed chemically. And one of the goals of some of the research SAM is doing into using hydroponically grown plants to remove carbon dioxide from the air is to have an entire mission that transitions from a physiochemically scrubbed one to a fully plant-based carbon dioxide sequestered. Some other examples of facilities. There's the Mars Desert Research Station. It's in a desert in Utah that is selected as a geologic analog to Mars. This is where Scott and I did our mission. Some of the research done there involves producing food in very stripped down lab environments. In Europe, there's Lunares in Poland, which is an interesting facility. It's based on an old military base, and it is completely sealed and isolated from the outside world. One of my colleagues did a simulated lunar mission there where he was in complete darkness, like no exposure to sunlight, for about 2 weeks. So it was really interesting being on Zoom calls with him when he was in there. And Lunares has done a lot of research on crew isolation and the psychological effects of that. Mars Society also runs Flashline, which is on Devon Island in Nunavut, Canada. Devon Island is a polar desert. So again, another area on Earth that is pretty similar in some ways to Mars. It's at a latitude that actually gives Nunavut kind of a similar solar radiance to what Mars has is at its equator, which could be interesting for growing crops. And the crew that was just at Flashline did some pretty interesting research on the abundance of microplastics that they found contaminating the water and the ice up there. And contamination is going to be a serious concern for any kind of a long-term presence on Mars, so it's good to study this stuff on Earth. And the Austrian Space Forum is an organization of scientists and researchers who run missions, research missions all over the world. They've done things in the Rio Tinto area in Spain, which has a very acidic river that is good for doing astrobiology research. And this image is of a human participant being trained on a low-gravity treadmill simulator that the Austrian Space Forum runs in partnership with the European Space Agency. And also in the U.S., we have CHAPEA, which it's a NASA project at the Johnson Space Center. It is a 3D printed habitat that holds crew members, crews of 6 to 8 people for up to a year, and studies things like the psychological effects of isolation on crew members, how much food they consume, which informs how much weight, we would have to bring on a crewed mission to Mars, and other factors. And there's many, many other facilities, but that's a good sampling.
Yes, and later this year, there's going to be a coordinated mission between many of the facilities around the world. It is called, why am I spacing on the name?
The world's biggest analog.
World's biggest analog, yes. Okay. Okay, sorry. Yes, and Offworld Voyage hopefully will be part of this. If not, we'll be doing our launch sometime in 2026. But we're figuring out all those logistics right now. Okay, so next part. Side quests can lead to things, yes. Sometimes it's often great to take non-traditional pathways. Lots of us here at Y are people who took non-traditional pathways to learning lots of things. We throw our entire lives into things that we're passionate about, and we make no excuses for it. We just do it. And that's often a really good way of learning things if that's what you're into. So, at one point, a few years ago, this is actually how we got into this, we had been traveling around trying to visit some of these analog research facilities. We were trying to visit High Seas, which is on Mauna Loa in Hawaii in the United States. And while there, I was doing things like listening to volcanoes using geophones. And this was a little scary, but not that scary. It only erupted 6 years before this, so it was fairly dormant. However, you still see lots of steam coming out, and it is pretty hot. But while we were there, we were trying to get onto the campus of High Seas. We went all the way up to the gate, and we were LiDAR scanning some of the geological features and waiting for a phone call back from one of the directors. And finally, we got back there. She got back to us, and we asked her, can we go visit the campus? And she said, absolutely not. Please do not go up there. And we're like, oh, phooey. And also, while we were trying to negotiate this, another thing happened. We were there during the eruption of Mauna Loa. That was actually one of the reasons why she said, don't go up there, because it was very dangerous. And danger can happen. Here we are, quite close to the erupting volcano. Yes. You can kind of see a map in relation of where High Seas is to the flow front. Okay, so curiosity, perseverance, and opportunity come a knockin'. What happened, Liz? How did we get into this whole Mars Desert Research Station nonsense?
Well, besides both of us having some backgrounds in science, Scott actually having some background in aerospace research, we're both curious people, long-term environmental activists, and one morning, our dear friend Roger Gilbertson, who was a producer of the film Who Killed the Electric Car, long-term advocate for sustainable transportation, polymath, many other things, who's also one of the first employees of SpaceX, called us and said, Scott, Liz, I am leading, I'm the crew commander of a mission coming up at the Mars Desert Research Station later this year. Would you like to apply to join the crew? And we both said, yes, absolutely yes. And he said, wait, don't you want to know more about what's involved? And we were like, no. Yes, we want to join.
Yes, and several months later, after coordinating on the mission, we wound up joining joining the crew at the Mars Desert Research Station, crew number 286. Here's our mission patch. You see some of our mission objectives here. There's a film strip representing filmmaking. Hugo Salgier, who is a filmmaker whose grandfather was one of the founders of the European Space Agency, was doing a documentary film to look at the history of space agencies and wanted to connect with his grandfather that he didn't know very well. Above that is the Metalbot Surfa 2, which is one of my inventions. It is a scalable general purpose robotic gantry. It's basically, it was designed to be a 3D printer that prints food and is powered by bicycle. So low power 3D food printer. And there's a telescope, of course. And to the right, that looks very, very peculiar, this is a bioreactor that is part of Guillaume Gago's experiments, and Guillaume was working on creating edible purple bacteria, using using some of the gases that were produced on the station.
Using carbon dioxide exhaled from the crew, and also hydrogen gas as the electron source.
Yes. Sorry, I'm a little nervous up here.
That's okay.
Yeah.
He basically started a party for billions of new mission mates.
Yes. And then finally, to the right is this. This is a LiDAR scanner that I travel around with. This is an industrial LiDAR scanner. I like scanning things and making digital twins, 3D objects, and all that other fun stuff. So that was a big part of the mission. Okay. And then at the bottom is the Mars Desert Research Station. And here's the map. So on this map, you will see lots of different areas. This is a Jurassic area. It's protected in a national park in Utah. And you see the Mars Desert Research Station as kind of a spot on the map, and some of the roads they're actually dirt roads and very difficult to get around. These are some of the places that we explored during the missions there. And this is a LiDAR scan that I did over the several weeks that we were there. And big thanks to Felipe Cuenca Galan for helping me assemble this from a bunch of different scans. So let's see, we'll take a little bit of an exploration of the campus. So there are some very glitched out solar panels, but in the far distance you see a telescope. There are two telescopes there. This is the Science Dome at the center. This is where we conduct science in a dome. And over here on the right, that's coming up, we just flew past, that's where we were living. And over here, this is the RAM. This is our workshop area. And we were going around on electric golf carts. The covering over there is supposed to be a simulated, or it's simulated tubes. This is not a pressurized facility, so we were able to go outside, but we couldn't go outside of the actual area that was part of the simulation. And you see on the back door of the habitat is a simulated airlock. So you can kind of see where we were hanging out for a few weeks. And then over off in the distance, on the left as we're zooming in, this is where I did one of my Music on Mars performances. Set up there during an EVA, carted a synthesizer and a bunch of pedals and a bunch of other weird things out there. So we're kind of off in the distance, but it was the first of which was a failed recording, but then we did a second one, which ended up working out pretty well. It's actually pretty difficult to play a synthesizer and get everything together when you have all these gloves on and you're breathing with a big heavy pack on you and a big globe on your head. There we go. Okay, so this is our crew inside of the Science Dome. I did the first performance of music inside of the Science Dome. Usually it's used for conducting science, and I somehow convinced them that it was actually science. Well, actually, I told them it was research, since say it was science, and that was satisfactory enough. Yeah. Okay. One of the activities that we have is donning and doffing. That means putting your spacesuit on, taking it off. So that was a bit of a challenge, kind of clipping on the helmets and getting everything together. The spacesuits that we had at Mars Desert Research Station just had fans blowing air into our into the suit. It wasn't actually pressurized, but it was still pretty difficult to manage. And here we are inside of the simulated airlock, about to go out and do activities. And this is one of my activities. So this is what the music sounds like. My music on Mars thing. Let's see. Is it going through? I guess it's not really playing the audio. Oh, hold on. Here, let me pause this. Okay. Give me one moment. Yeah, so one of the things that's pretty interesting about the acoustic properties of Mars is that it was discovered that sound travels differently than on Earth. On Earth, sound travels at 343 meters per second at sea level. However, on Mars, it travels at both 240 meters per second and 250 meters per second, depending on where you are in the spectrum. And this was discovered by the Perseverance rover team. So I used this data in order to make this this filter with John Knott. If you want to watch a full presentation about this, you can check it out on the 37C3 website. There's a video. But yeah, this is a little bit of what it sounds like if you turn up the audio.
It's all the way up.
Here we go. Anyway, if you want to check it out, yeah, you can listen to our listen to it on the CCC website. Yes. So one of the other things I was doing on the mission was I was collecting regolith, so dirt and clay and whatnot for 3D printing. So the 3D printer that I made, the Mandelbot Surfa 2, is actually designed to also print with clay and other types of pozzolane materials. So here I am digging some clay. We don't know if there's clay on Mars, but there's definitely dirt, lots of it.
And perchlorates.
Yes.
Lots of perchlorates.
You don't want to get that in your spacesuit or anything else. Okay, this is Liz. And Liz is doing some drone mapping of the terrain. And this is LiDAR scanning of the terrain. So this LiDAR scan was included in the in that scan that you saw, just to kind of get an idea of the scale of this and how many scans were included in that map. This is Guillaume, who's making the documentary. Okay, so here we are now at the second part. You guys ready to hear about Offworld Voyage, what we came up with? Okay, now that you guys know about all the other stuff. Okay, so I consider any thought that I have in which I don't know if something exists a dare. If I think that something is really neat and I don't know something that exists, I try to make it happen. Yes, so if you haven't heard of someone doing something yet, it's a good enough reason to try doing it. I think I'm in good company with people here who do exactly that kind of thing as well. And also, one of the other things that I encourage people to not be afraid of is the overlap of many different things. So if you have lots of different interests never feel discouraged by people who will tell you, oh, just try to stay focused. Sometimes it's best to not stay focused. Sometimes it's best to pursue all the interests in multiple directions and then create an umbrella for those things. And then you can call that umbrella a thing and then just consider those things underneath it components or functions or objects or whatever. So one of the things about the mission was that the food that was provided by Mars Society was typical space analog research training stuff. So lots of dehydrated food, nothing fresh, just something that can reconstitute. And I brought along a lot of my own food. I've been vegan for a very long time. I find that pretty important, and you're vegan as well for a long time.
That's right.
Yes. And we wanted to create a plant-based Mars base by ourselves. So I was pretty inspired by the mission there, and I was looking around for other facilities in which to do our research. Like, could we do grow food and all this other stuff that we wanted to do? And I thought, like, well, rather than ask for permission from other people, why don't we just create something ourselves? So introducing Offworld Voyage. Yes, the whole idea is to create space analog research habitats that also address survival in the case of climate biodevastation on Earth. So can we use these facilities not only for exploring Mars or Moon or other places, but can we use these facilities for surviving in these catastrophes that continue unfolding with the desertification of Earth? And what can we do to kind of reverse those things? And can we have a laboratory in which we're making soil, in which we're trying to counter the desiccation of life? Okay, 15. Very good. So here we go. Some reasons why do people become vegan: respectful or for sentient beings, care for environment, better health, everyday life, boycott of animal agriculture, and for some, karma-free telepathic communication with interdimensional entities and extraterrestrials. We were just at Modem Festival, and there were definitely a lot of people that probably were vegan for those reasons. I don't know how many of you are vegan for that reason, but I don't know. Okay, anyway, yes, one of the main reasons why doing this is that animal agriculture is incredibly intensive in terms of its energy consumption and water consumption. So here we go. So I worked on this project about a year and a half ago. I started it creating the Offworld Voyage M.A.R.S. Tesseract habitats. And M.A.R.S. in this case stands for Mars Analog Research Stations. Yes, it is a fractal. And I did these models with Michael Flood, the amazing designer. We worked on this for a month and a half. These images are on our scans of the Mars Desert Research Station. We may do a mission there sometime in the future, but this is just proof of concept. What you see here are domes. There's a platform, and each of these domes has its own particular function. We have a green hab in which we're growing food. We have a laboratory and workshop in which we make things and do and conduct science. We have a living space, space for donning and doffing spacesuits, and airlocks and all this other fun stuff. So we were going to do our inaugural mission in the United States later this year, but due to current political realities, we're probably going to do it. I mean, we're going to be doing it in some other country. Yeah. So here are some other images of our CAD models. And this is the donning and doffing area. Okay, and this is what it looks like. Here's a tour of the interior. This is our green hab in which we will be pedal powering to create electricity. We'll have purification of water. We'll be growing algae and also doing aeroponics and hydroponics experiments. Here we go. Okay, so we have storage over here. We're growing fungi as well. This is our lab space, maker space. We'll have lots of lab tools, and this is our comm space and storage. Lots of storage, lots of places to recycle things and put things together. This is another one of our donning and doffing rooms. And then there's the living space over here, which we have a kitchen and kind of flow space. And then we sleep upstairs here inside of some hexayurts, which were invented by Vinay Gupta. So, yeah, everything packs down into 2 shipping containers. And there's our sick bay. And Liz is in charge of our bio stuff and sick bay.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So how much time do we have left? We're 10 minutes. Okay, cool. Good. Okay. So one of our main focuses is on ecotech. So ecologically sound technologies, the development of. We're huge fans of open source tech and sharing what we discover. We're going to be doing pressurized EVAs. EVA is it's an abbreviation for extravehicular activity, which is space talk for
Going outside.
in a spacesuit. Yes. Our first bases are designed to be intermediate fidelity. That means that the bases themselves will not be pressurized. However, we will be wearing pressurized spacesuits for these EVAs. We're looking for locations around the world that have similar geology to Mars. We've been looking at some places in Australia and also in Portugal in the deserts. Usually high desert is a good place to do this stuff, and very remote locations where people will not bother you. Yeah. So as part of these facilities, we'll have the astronaut training facility, but then we'll also have a mission support facility. The design for the Tesseract facilities are all modular and scalable, and all the narratives that we're going to have will be actual like problem solving related. So for example, the delayed networking that happens between Earth and Mars or between different bases, we'll have that. We'll have those messages going back and forth, and sometimes a message that was sent later will come back earlier, and there will be lots of things to resolve, and the things that actually simulate the types of problems that we will have in long distance space travel. We'll also have drills for surviving solar storms and other types of things. Okay, yes, you saw some of these on the base. Here we go. And here we are getting fitted with Cameron Smith for our spacesuits. This is inside of his laboratory. I showed these pictures to my friend Peter Young, and he said, "You got fitted for spacesuits in an anarchist bookstore?" Anyway, this is his apartment, and it's fantastic. It's filled with books. We like books. There are many of them. And to the right of where I am in my fancy outfit, you can see some of the spacesuits that he's made. And voila, these are the Offworld Voyage custom pressurized EVA suits. We've just had them made. We haven't tried them on yet, but I'm really excited to. And we're going to be using these during our world's biggest analog mission later this year. Okay. So very important. We consider space exploration a very crucial part of pushing pushing science forward in a huge way. It's a very, very difficult set of problems to solve when solving for space exploration. And it's problematic in that we have this attack on science and rationality by these right-wing populist forces that are attempting to hide and obfuscate information and crash satellites that are doing great weather research, crash them right into the Earth. And so, how do we go forward with this? Well, we treat this as activism, and and we're very clear about our aims in protecting rational thought. Okay, so here are some of the other things that we are thinking about. So we have lots of different thought processes in creating some of these narratives that are within our thing. Okay, and we have real life simulations, as mentioned earlier. And here we go. I mentioned all these other activities. Oh yeah, one of the things I mentioned, composting of all biomaterials. So we're going to be taking all the biomaterials, including human waste and food scraps and whatnot, and doing things with those things, like turning the gases into bioplastics and using those gases for cooking fuels, and trying to really think about how we can reduce our consumption and turn things that we think of as waste into useful things, and not really think of anything as waste at all. Okay. Lots of gadgets to play with, of course. We all like making things, and this thing will be no exception. Okay, food production. Yes, and one of the other things too is that we'll have human behavioral studies. We've been talking to a lot of psychologists and anthropologists about how people interact in isolated conditions. When we were isolated at the Mars Desert Research Station, some very unique types of conflicts came up while we were all experiencing cabin fever. And some of us were not as neighborly as we normally are in everyday life. So it was a very interesting thing to kind of watch what was happening. Okay, got it. One of the things that probably will happen in space amongst crews will be sex and intimacy. The thing that never really is talked about in in these adventures in space. Why don't we talk about these things? Well, we will talk about these things. And the other thing too is, doing meditation. Some people have proposed doing some stuff with psychedelic research and entheogens and empathogens and other stuff like that. So that's a discussion, and also reaching flow states. I mentioned some of these other things. Yes, we're also going to be experimenting with mesh networking in order to communicate using things like Meshtastic and LoRa, and probably BitChat as well. Yes, there's Rabble over there. Thanks a lot for working on that. Yay! Okay, and we'll be documenting everything as well. There we go. Okay. So, yes, this is one of your quotes.
Well, quickly, because I think we're running low on time.
We're almost done.
Almost done. No, I think that these research missions, they solve for a lot of problems that would come up in actual crewed spaceflight, and it's a good opportunity to test out a lot of things before spending the time and money to actually fly them. But I think these missions are also a great container and a context for advocating for open research and finding new ways of distributing and supporting independent scientific research, which is something that is currently under attack in the country that we come from.
Okay. So here's a bit more about what we're doing, and okay, some more thoughts. Okay, and we're going to be doing a lot of project documentation. Actually, if you want to participate in what we're doing, we need help with that. Yeah, so here are some of our models for support. And the timeline, so we've already done the CAD and the systems design, so I've done all the engineering and everything painstakingly with Michael Flood for the Tesseract habitats. And we have the EVA pressure suits. We're ready to go and build everything. And now we're just location scouting for our missions and starting to do the fundraising and grant writing. Everything we've done so far has been out of pocket. And we're looking for crew members and people to help out. We're probably going to do our first prototyping mission over the course of a 2-month to 3-month long period if any of you are interested in participating. So reach out. And here we go. This is what we're looking for. Basically, analog astronaut crew members, mission control and mission support volunteers, researchers. We're looking for people to build and maintain technical infrastructure, scouting for locations on Earth, administrative assistance, grant writing, smart contracts, all that. And yes. Oh, your announcements?
Well, again, the world's biggest analog is happening later this fall. That is a kind of collaborative effort between a lot of different space analog research facilities and groups all over the world. They're all running coordinated missions around the same time later this fall. And the Journal of Space Analog Research is currently taking paper submissions. If any of you are, researchers who study human-involved work that would contribute to knowledge on crewed space exploration, submissions are open.
Okay.
And also the article submission fee is waived.
Yes. Okay, thank you guys so much. And let's see, huge thank to the Y2025 content team. You guys are all amazing. And big thanks for being the Herald. And yeah, this is our thank you list. And here we go. This is how you stay in contact. Thank you guys. And yay.
Thank you.
Okay, we have some questions.
Thank you very much. Sorry, we already run out of time. So if you have questions, we can take it aside because we're closing, I guess, this one down.
Okay.
And I have to run to the next one.